Morena Koto, welcome to story time today. I've got my cat Toby. He decided that he wants to sit on my lap today as we read stories. So you can look at the screen and you can say hi, Toby. You go say hi. Yeah, he doesn't look. I think he just wants to sit on my lap and what have you. So it's great to see you all. Hey, we got two stories today. We're going to read Three Cheers for Kid McGear. Oh, Toby's getting up. He may go across the screen. And we're also going to be continuing on with James and the Giant Peach. So what are you going to do, Toby? You're going to walk across the screen? Well, that's all good. So, three cheers for McGear. One day, at the construction yard, 5 friends were building, working hard. Flatbed drives into the site, vroom, vroom. Her secret load is strapped down tight. The tarp comes off, and their surprise, the crew cannot believe their eyes. 5 trucks stop and turn and stare at the tiny truck that's sitting there. Clean and shiny, all brand new, with lots of cool attachments too. Whoa, what kind of truck are you? With a scoop on her front end, she gives a turn, a twist, a bend, and vaults off flatbed in one swoop. Beep, beep, hello, she says, and greets the group. Wow, now who do we have here? I'm a skid steer, Kid McGear. I'm here to pitch in any way to help you guys get done today. I'm here to work, to have a turn. I want to join the team and learn. I'm the new kid on your crew, so is there something I can do? Kid, we have a huge job here. We have a ton of ground to clear. I think, kid, you're just too small to be much help around here at all. Excuse me, Toby, can you move your bottom? Thank you. We have to move out yards of dirt. I'm worried that you might get hurt. I saw your trick, that fancy stuff, but you don't look quite strong enough to jump in here and do your share. Maybe just stay over there. The trucks drive off to clear the land. No problem, guys. I understand. I'll help out some other day, Kid says as she turns away. The big trucks go back to working hard, clearing the construction yard. And then, honk! Suddenly, Kid hears a yelp. Emergency! Come quick, come help! Screech! Kid stops and spins around, revs and heads right toward the sound. All the trucks start rolling fast, speeding towards the cliff, full blast. But Kid McGear goes turbo burst, and so she gets there fast and first. Working on a steep hillside, the trucks began to slip and slide. Now trapped in the trees with mud and rubble, excavators in big trouble. Bulldozers in trouble too. But Kid McGear knows what to do first so that she doesn't slip. Kid puts on tracks to help her grip. She stops a moment, takes a look, and quickly grabs her grapple hook in one smooth and steady swipe. She grabs a load of steel pipe. Support is needed to begin. Kid's power driver slams them in. With pipes all lined up in a row, Kid grabs a chain and gives a throw. Kid rolls downhill, brave and sure, and wraps each truck so they're secure. Kid's giant scissors, power shears, cut tangled limbs. Then her blade clears. Now we need something, says the kid, to help make sure that they don't skid. Here, I'll dump this load of sand for traction on the slippery land. Kid rolls into each small space and pushes sand right into place. Then Kid sees a giant rock. It has bulldozers trapped and blocked. I'll jackhammer this to bits. And with a roar, the boulder splits. Crane truck clears away the rubble, lifting each piece without trouble. Kid, then Excavator coughs. I think my track is falling off. Excavator shifts in onto his scoop to pull his track out from the goop. Forklift on, lickety-split, Kid rolls down and fixes it. Working at full speed non-stop, the chains tied to pipes up top. Cement mixer, we need your weight. Hit low gear, stay strong and straight. Now everybody pull, Kid shouts. And the others rev hard, helping out. Down there, you guys, start up and roll. We'll pull and tie to keep control. Soon everyone's back on level land and can all get back to work as planned. I'm so glad you're all okay. And then Kid turns to roll away. But the big trucks start to cheer to show their thanks to Kid McGear. They shout 3 times, hip hip hooray, Kid McGear just saved the day. Please don't go, Kid. We hope you'll stay. Now Kid McGear has joined the crew, 5 old friends and someone new, 6 friends in the construction yard, big and small, all working hard. Each one greater than they seem, because they're working as a team. That's a really cool story about not judging someone by their size, but also working as a team can really help out everybody out. So remember, team together, everyone achieves more. Now you're gonna stay here, Toby? You want to hear James and the Giant Peach? He's purring, so he must be kind of happy. All right, chapter 12. Yesterday, James had got into the peach and into the middle, and there were some giant insects and bugs. Let's see what is going to happen. James decided that this was most certainly not a time to be disagreeable, so he crossed the room to where the centipede was sitting and knelt down beside him. Thank you so much, the centipede said. You're very kind. You got a lot of boots, James murmured. I've got a lot of legs, the centipede answered proudly, and a lot of feet, 100 to be exact. There he goes again, the earthworm cried, speaking for the first time. He simply cannot stop telling lies about his legs. He doesn't have anything like 100 of them. He's only got 42. The trouble is that most people don't bother to count them. They just take his word, and anyway, there is nothing marvellous, you know, centipede, about having a lot of legs. Poor fellow, the centipede said, springing James's ear. He's blind. He can't see how splendid I look. In my opinion, the earthworm said, the really marvellous thing is to have no legs at all and to be able to walk just the same. You call that walking? Cried the centipede. You're a slitherer. That's all you are, just a slither along. I glide, said the earthworm primly. You're a slimy beast, answered the centipede. I'm not a slimy beast, the earthworm said. I'm as useful as and a much-loved creature. Ask any gardener you like. And as for you, I'm a pest, the centipede announced, grinning broadly and looking around the room for approval. He's so proud of that, the ladybird said, smiling at James, though for the life of me I cannot understand why. I'm the only pest in the room, cried the centipede, still grinning away. Unless you count old green grasshopper over there. He's long past it now. He's too old to be a pest anymore. The old green grasshopper turned his huge black eyes upon the centipede and gave him a withering look. Young fellow, he said, speaking in a deep, slow, scornful voice, I have never been a pest in my life. I am a musician. Hear, hear, said the ladybird. James, the centipede said. Your name is James, isn't it? Yes. Well, James, have you ever in your life seen such a marvellous, colossal centipede as me? Oh, I certainly haven't, James answered. How on earth did you get like that? It's very peculiar, the centipede said. Very, very peculiar indeed. Let me tell you what happened. I was messing about in the garden under the old peach tree, and suddenly a funny little green thing came wriggling past my nose. Bright green it was and extraordinarily beautiful. It looked like something like a tiny stone crystal. Oh, but I know what that was. It happened to me too, said the ladybird. And me, Miss Spider said. Suddenly there were little green things everywhere. The soil was full of them. We actually swallowed one, the earthworm declared proudly. So did I, the ladybird said. I swallowed 3, the centipede cried. But who's telling the story anyway? Don't interrupt. It's too late to tell stories now, the old grasshopper announced. It's time to go to sleep. I refuse to sleep in my boots, the centipede cried. How many more are there to come off, James? I think I've done 20 so far, James told him. Then that leaves 88 to go, the centipede said. 22, not 80, shrieked the earthworm. He's lying again. The centipede roared with laughter. Stop pulling the earthworm's leg, the ladybird said. This sent the centipede into hysterics. Pulling his leg, he cried, giggling with glee and pointing at the earthworm. Which leg am I pulling? You tell me that. James decided that he'd rather like the centipede. He was obviously a rascal, but what a change it was to hear someone laughing once in a while. He had never heard Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker laughing aloud, and all the time he had been with them. We really must get to sleep, the old green grasshopper said. We've got a tough day ahead of us tomorrow. So would you be kind enough, Miss Spider, to make the beds? Chapter 13. A few minutes later, Miss Spider had made the first bed. It was hanging from the ceiling, suspended by a rope of threads at either side. So it looked more like a hammock than a bed, but it was a magnificent affair, and the stuff was made of shimmered like the stuff that it was made of shimmered like silk in the pale light. I do hope you'll find it comfortable, Miss Spider said to the old green grasshopper. I made it as soft and silky as I possibly could. I spun it with gossamer. That's a much better quality thread than the one I used for my own web. Thank you so much, my dear lady, the old green grasshopper said, climbing into the hammock. Ah, this is just what I needed. Good night, everybody. Good night. Then Miss Spider spun the next hammock, and the ladybird got in. After she'd spun a long one for the centipede and an even longer one for the earthworm. And how do you like your bed? She said to James when it came to his turn. Hard or soft? I like it soft, thank you very much, James answered. For goodness sake, stop staring around the room and get on with my boots, the centipede said. You and I are never going to be able to get to sleep at this rate. And kindly line them up neatly in pairs as you take them off. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying not to sneeze. Don't just throw them over your shoulder. James worked frantically on the centipede's boots. Each one had laces that had been untied and loosened before it could be pulled off. And to make matters worse, all the laces were tied up in the most complicated, terrible knots and had to be unpicked with fingernails. It was just awful. It took about 2 hours, and by the time James had pulled off the last boot of all and had lined them up in a row on the floor, 21 pairs altogether, the centipede was fast asleep. Wake up, centipede, whispered James, giving him a gentle dig in the stomach. It's time for bed. Thank you, my dear child, the centipede said, opening his eyes. Then he got down off the sofa and ambled across the room and crawled into his hammock. James got into his own hammock, and oh, how soft and comfortable it was compared with the hard, bare boards that his aunt had always made him sleep upon at home. Lights out, said the centipede drowsily. Nothing happened. Turn out the light, he called, raising his voice. James glanced around the room, wondering which of the others he might be talking to, but they were all asleep. The old green grasshopper was snoring loudly through his nose. The ladybird was making whistling noises as she breathed, and the earthworm was coiled up like a spring at one end of his hammock, wheezing and blowing through his open mouth. As for Miss Spider, she had made a lovely web for herself across one corner of the room, and James could see her crouching right in the very center of it, mumbling softly in her dreams. I said, turn out the light, shouted the centipede angrily. Are you talking to me? James asked him. Of course I'm talking to you, you ass, the centipede answered. That crazy glowworm has gone to sleep with her light on. For the first time since entering the room, James glanced up at the ceiling, and there he saw a most extraordinary sight, something that looked like a gigantic fly without wings. It was at least 3 feet long, was standing upside down upon its 6 legs in the middle of the ceiling, and the tail end of this creature seemed to be literally on fire. A brilliant greenish light, as bright as the brightest electric bulb, was shining out of its tail and lighting up the whole room. Is that a glowworm? Asked James, staring at the light. Doesn't look like a worm of any sort to me. Of course it's a glowworm, the centipede answered. At least that's what she calls herself. Although, actually, you are quite right. She isn't really a worm at all. Glowworms are never worms. They're simply lady fireflies without wings. Wake up, you lazy beast! But the glowworm didn't stir, and so Centipede reached out of the hammock, picked up one of his boots from the floor. Put out the wretched light, he shouted, hurling the boot up at the ceiling. The glowworm slowly opened one eye and stared at the centipede. There's no need to be rude, she said coldly. All in good time. Come on, shouted the centipede, or I'll put it out for you. Oh, hello, James, the glowworm said, looking down and giving James a little wave and smile. I didn't see you come in. Welcome, my dear boy, welcome, and good night. Then click, and out went the light. James Henry tried to lay there in the darkness with his eyes wide open, listening to the strange sleeping noises that the creatures were making all around him, and wondering what on earth was going to happen in the morning. Already, he was beginning to like his new friends very much. They were not nearly as terrible as they looked. In fact, they weren't really terrible at all. They were extremely kind and helpful, in spite of all the shouting and arguing that went on between them. "Good night, old green grasshopper," he whispered. "Good night, ladybird. Good night, Miss Spider." But before he could go through them all, he had fallen fast asleep. Well, that's all for today. We're going to chapter 14 and we'll find out what is going to happen next week. You want to say goodbye, Toby? Yes, Toby. He's going to say goodbye to you all. I hope you all have a great day. We'll catch up at 10 a.m. tomorrow for another Tawa School story time. You say bye, Toby? Oh, he's going to hop off my knee. He might put his bottom in front of the screen. So I'll say goodbye. Ka kite anō. See you tomorrow.